When my cousin, General James, was deployed overseas, none of us could have imagined what was brewing back home. Our neighborhood had always been the kind of quiet place where the biggest scandal was someone's dog barking too early on a Sunday. But the second James left, Karen Matthews, our power-hungry HOA president, saw her chance. And when people like Karen see an opportunity, they pounce. Fast. The thing about Karen was she didn't even try to hide her schemes. The morning it all started, I watched her from my kitchen window. Designer yoga pants, iced latte in one hand, her phone in the other, snapping pictures of James' house like she was on assignment for Architectural Digest. Except she wasn't admiring the architecture. She was hunting for problems. I walked out there, coffee in hand, still wearing slippers, and said, "Morning, Karen. What exactly are you doing?" She gave me that tight, fake smile of hers, the kind that doesn't even try to reach her eyes. "Oh, just documenting some serious violations," she chirped, tapping away on her phone like it was a weapon. "You see the paint on this house? It's 2 shades off from the approved HOA color palette." I stared at her. "Karen, you know James is deployed, right? He's a general, serving our country. This house has been in our family for 4 generations." She shrugged like that was irrelevant. "Rules are rules," she said, voice syrupy sweet but sharp enough to cut. "And deployment isn't an excuse to let the property decline. Did you know we're proposing a new community center? Could increase home values by 30%? That was the first I'd heard of any community center. And judging by the gleam in Karen's eye, James' house wasn't just a violation. It was an obstacle. From that moment on, things snowballed. Certified letters started hitting James' mailbox like clockwork. Every day, a new violation. The brass door knocker that had been there since his grandfather's time, non-compliant. The rose bushes his daughter Sarah planted before he left, now classified as invasive. Every memory in that house was getting flagged. I wanted to tell James, but communication during his deployment was tight. The most I could do was email and hope he'd read it in time. And then came the night I saw Karen's husband out there with a flashlight and a tape measure, pacing along James' property line like a buzzard staking its claim. That's when I knew they were planning something big. A few days later, I overheard Karen giving a sales pitch to a group of investors. She stood there in the middle of our street, waving her perfectly manicured hand toward James's home like it was an old shack ready for the wrecking ball. "This area will be completely transformed," she said, all business. "The outdated structures will be the first to go, starting with that one." That night, I called Sarah at college. "Something's wrong," I told her. "They're circling your dad's house like vultures." "But Dad's supposed to be home in 2 weeks," she said, her voice shaking. "They can't do anything before then." "Can they?" I wanted to reassure her, but Karen was smart. She'd outmaneuvered lawsuits before. She knew the system and how to twist it. The next morning, I found an emergency HOA meeting notice in the mailbox. The date? Exactly 13 days before James was scheduled to return. 1 day short of the 2-week notice required by federal law for deployed service members. Karen had done her homework. That night, as I locked James's front door, I couldn't shake the feeling we were running out of time. On the mantle was a photo of James taking command of his unit. He once told me battles are won by brains, not just brawn. I needed a strategy, but Karen wasn't wasting time either. I woke up to the rumble of heavy machinery, bulldozers, 3 of them, rolling down the street at 6:30 in the morning like they had somewhere important to be. And where they were headed was obvious. James's house. I grabbed the folder of legal documents I'd been keeping ready and bolted out the door. Karen was already there, of course, smiling like the Cheshire Cat in her overpriced workout gear, tapping away on her iPad. 2 police cruisers sat idling nearby. She'd covered all her bases. "Stop!" I shouted, waving James's deployment papers like a white flag. "You can't do this. He's an active duty service member. This house is protected." Karen didn't even flinch. "Oh, sweetie," she said, barely glancing up. "The board voted last night. Unanimous decision. Immediate demolition due to severe structural issues." She stepped aside as the demolition crew moved in. I showed them James's tax receipts. Everything was paid in full, but Karen was ready for that too. "Actually," she said, flipping through a folder thicker than a phone book, "there's been no tax payments for 6 months." That was a lie, and I knew it. I pulled up James's bank app, showed the canceled checks. "You cashed them," I said, heart pounding. I have proof. Karen's hand waved dismissively. Applied to other outstanding violations. Overgrown grass, wrong paint color, mailbox too short. The crew was gearing up, engines revving. Karen was on the phone again, calling someone about permits being ready. I tried James's lawyer but got voicemail. The police said they couldn't intervene. It was a civil matter. And then, like a gut punch, the bulldozer's claw lifted. Wood splintered. The front porch, where James and I had shared beers after his wife died, was gone in seconds. That's when my phone rang. It was James. "I'm at the airport," he said cheerfully. "Thought I'd surprise everyone." I could barely speak. "You need to get here. Now." He didn't ask questions, just said, "I'm on my way." I stood there, helpless, watching more of our family history crumble. Karen was smiling like she'd won. She had no idea she'd just kicked a hornet's nest. An hour later, James pulled up. Full dress uniform, stars glinting in the sunlight. The demolition crew froze mid-swing. James stepped out like he was walking onto a battlefield. And in a way, he was. He walked past Karen without acknowledging her, knelt in the rubble, and picked up a shattered ballet trophy, the one his daughter had won when she was 6. He tucked it carefully into his pocket, then stood facing Karen. "Ma'am," he said with crisp precision, "I believe you're trespassing." She blustered, waving her HOA documents like a shield. "The board voted unanimously, General. We have all the proper paperwork." James didn't blink. He pulled out his phone, hit speed dial, and said, "Bill?" "It's James. Remember that conversation about government overreach?" Karen's face changed color faster than a traffic light. James kept going. "Yes, Senator. That property, the one my grandfather built in 1947, protected under the Service Members Civil Relief Act." Karen's lips moved, but no sound came out. "Oh, and bring the press," James added. "I think they'll want to see this." The crew backed off. Karen's husband, Tom, suddenly found his shoes very interesting. Neighbors came out, recording on their phones. Even Mrs. Chen from next door showed up, holding a photo of James' grandparents building the house after the Korean War. An hour later, Senator Williams arrived with news crews in tow. He took one look at the house and pulled out his phone. "Get me the state attorney general," he barked. Karen tried to interrupt. "This is a private HOA matter." No one listened. The cops took photos and James handed over every piece of proof we'd collected. Cash checks, forged violation notices, records of secret meetings. It was a slam dunk. But the real fireworks started when the senator's aide handed over documents showing Karen's husband had secured the community center contract 3 months before the board even voted on it. Fraud, plain and simple. Neighbors who'd stayed silent for years stepped forward. They shared videos, emails, even recordings of Karen plotting to bulldoze James's house before he got home. One woman whispered that Karen had targeted 3 other military families the same way. The dam had broken. And Karen? She made one last stand, waving her rule book and shouting about emergency powers. James stared at her. "What was the emergency, Karen?" She had no answer. And Bill, our old mailman, had receipts. Literally. He'd filmed Karen and Tom pacing out the property a day before the vote. When the attorney general arrived, Karen's husband tried to escape in his Mercedes. The police blocked him. Inside his briefcase were blueprints dated months before James's house was even declared unsafe. And then Karen made her biggest mistake. She pulled out a document that made James go pale. I didn't know what it was yet, but it was clear. This fight wasn't over. Not yet. Karen pulled out that document like it was her last ace in the hole, waving it around like it could save her. James took it, calmly, flipping through the pages without saying a word. The crowd had gone dead silent. You could hear a pin drop on the broken glass scattered across his lawn. I held my breath. Whatever it wasn't good. His face was stone, but I could see something flicker in his eyes. A cold fury that made me take a step back. "It's a quitclaim deed," James said finally. His voice was quiet but carried like a thunderclap. "Supposedly signed by me?" Karen's eyes gleamed for half a second. "See? You transferred ownership months ago. It's all legal." He looked up slowly. "That's not my signature." That's when Agent Thompson from the FBI, who'd arrived with the other investigators, stepped forward. He took the deed from James, gave it a once-over, and pulled out a tablet. "We already have handwriting analysis confirming this is a forgery," he said, "and the notary listed here died 6 years ago." Karen's jaw worked up and down like she was trying to chew through concrete. "You really thought you could pull this off," James said, his voice low. "You forged documents to steal the home of a deployed service member, and you thought no one would notice." The crowd wasn't silent anymore. They were murmuring, angry now, and not just at the mess of debris in front of them. They were angry at what Karen had done to all of us. That's when the FBI slapped cuffs on her wrists. Her husband wasn't far behind. I watched as they were both led away, their heads ducked, avoiding the cameras that had swarmed the scene like bees to honey. News anchors were already live streaming the takedown. HOA president and husband arrested in veteran property scheme crawled across the bottom of the screen. They'd be on every network by dinner. But for James, it wasn't about the cameras. He walked through what was left of his family home, stepping carefully over broken beams and crushed memories. Neighbors trailed behind him, some offering help, some just standing in stunned silence. He paused at what used to be his daughter Sarah's room and picked up a cracked picture frame. Inside was a photo of his wife and Sarah at the beach, before the cancer took her. I saw him swallow hard. Then he turned back to the crowd. "We rebuild," he said simply, and we did. The next few weeks were a blur of permits and building supplies. Veterans from 3 states drove in to help. Some James had served with, some he hadn't. Didn't matter. The bond was enough. Local businesses donated lumber, siding, windows, you name it. Even the high school shop class pitched in to build cabinets. The old house had been a beauty, but the new one was a fortress of love. It had the same colonial charm, but better, stronger. We laid every brick ourselves one by one, just like James's grandfather had done in 1947. And this time, the Historical Society made sure no one could ever touch it again without a fight. Karen and her husband, facing trial on charges so long I lost count: fraud, forgery, conspiracy, violation of the Service Members Civil Relief Act. Even tax evasion popped up once investigators started digging. Turns out they weren't just crooks, they were sloppy crooks. But here's the thing that still gets me. A week after Karen's arrest, her teenage daughter showed up on our doorstep. She stood there holding a box, tears streaking her face. "I found these," she said quietly. Inside were photos: James's wedding album, Sarah's baby pictures, letters from his wife while he was deployed. Things we thought were lost forever. "I'm sorry," she whispered. And James? He just nodded, taking the box from her gently. "Thank you," he said. He didn't need to say anything else. We thought that was the end of it, but it wasn't. James wasn't done. One morning over coffee, he told me he was starting something new. "There are other families out there," he said, "going through the same thing, and they don't have a cousin who fights like you." That's how the Homeowners Defense Alliance was born. It started small, just James, me, and a couple of friends from his unit. But word spread fast. Veterans from all over the country started reaching out. Soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines. All of them had horror stories about HOAs who thought they could steamroll deployed service members because they weren't home to fight back. We built a team: lawyers, advocates, volunteers. Even Senator Williams jumped on board, helping draft new laws to protect military families from predatory HOAs. They called it the Matthews Act, named after Karen. Ironic, right? Her name, forever linked to the law that stopped people like her. And the cases kept coming, one after another. There was the Navy SEAL in Florida whose HOA told him his service dog violated breed restrictions. We got that overturned in 3 days flat. An Army nurse in Texas came to us when her HOA tried to fine her $100 a day for a flagpole her dad installed before he passed. James made a couple of calls. That flag's still flying. We even found out Karen's husband had been eyeing properties in 3 other military communities. Same playbook: false violations, rush demolition votes, quick sales to friendly developers. We sent in teams, and those neighborhoods are safe now. And Karen's land? The plot where she wanted her fancy community center and condos? James bought it at auction after her assets were seized. You should have seen her face in court when he signed the papers. But James didn't build condos. He donated the land for affordable housing for veterans transitioning out of the service. First families moved in last month. And guess who volunteered to help them settle in? Karen's daughter. She said she wanted to make things right. And you know what? I believe her. One day, Sarah, James's daughter, came home from college and stood on the porch of their new house. She traced her fingers over the fresh woodwork, the new paint, the same colors her mom picked years ago. Feels like home again, she said. And I thought, yeah, it does. These days, James doesn't talk much about what happened. He lets the alliance do the talking now. He smiles when new neighbors ask about the old piece of his front door hanging in a shadow box by the kitchen, right next to his medals. It's a reminder, he says, that home is worth fighting for. The news vans are long gone. Karen and Tom are awaiting trial, looking at a long time behind bars. 7 other HOA board members took plea deals. Karen's legacy is now a case study in exactly how not to run a neighborhood. But for us, life moved forward. And in some ways, it's better now. Stronger. There's a new playground where Karen's luxury condos were supposed to go. Donated by the same construction companies that turned down her shady deals. Families have picnics there now. Veterans sit on benches engraved with the names of those who served. James visits every week, checking on the new families moving into the homes he helped build. We still get letters, emails, calls, families asking for help, and every time James reads them carefully, like he's planning his next mission. Because he is. Last week, we heard from a retired Marine in Arizona. His HOA was threatening to tear down the wheelchair ramp his neighbors had built. Said it didn't meet aesthetic standards. James picked up his phone, made a few calls, and within hours the HOA backed off. The ramp stays. Bullies don't like it when you fight back, James told me, and they really don't like it when you bring friends. We've made a lot of friends. Our alliance is growing. Every week more veterans join. Every week more neighborhoods get safer. The Matthews Act is passing in more states, and people are starting to notice. But sometimes it's the little things that remind me why we do this. One evening I watched Sarah, James's daughter, helping a little boy on the swings at the new playground. His dad, a Marine, had just moved into one of the houses we built. James stood nearby, sipping his coffee, watching with that quiet pride he carries. Did you ever think it would turn out like this? I asked him. He smiled. Never, but I wouldn't change a thing. And neither would I. Sometimes when I walk past the park, I look at the memorial wall. It's got names of veterans who made it home and those who didn't. And right in the middle, there's a plaque. In honor of those who fight for home. James didn't ask for that plaque. The neighbors did. Because they knew he wasn't just fighting for his house, he was fighting for all of us. Karen's HOA never saw it coming. But we did. And we're just getting started.